Now, because I think that way, am I going to hate Chris for doing what he wants to do with his own body? No. Well, I've been seeing nothing but stuff about this all day, nonstop. So, as we all know, mrbeast's friend has chosen to make a new big step in their life. And of course, social media did not take too kindly to this. And also, the same social media likes to put this same fact and transition on a pedestal. With that being said, it's very awkward, to say the least, to see everyone at each other's throats over someone trying to make a personal change in their life. And it all starts with the guy saying old Chris would make fun of new Chris. Now me, I can't comment too much on this because of course I don't know the mrbeast gang at all in the slightest, and nor does anyone else, so saying something like old Chris would make fun of new Chris is something in of itself. But with that being said, I will say it is completely crazy to see people say things like the media influenced his decision, from seeing so much crazy things online that it ended up allowing him to make up his mind and ultimately decide that he no longer wanted to be a man. If the media and pandering and all these other elements were actually taken into consideration for this guy to do this, I mean, why would this same media that is actually trying to portray and put people like this on a pedestal end up garnering so much hate for Chris in the first place? Obviously, it's because everyone has an opinion, and again, opinions are like holes. Everyone has them and they spout a lot of. With that being said, I don't really think the media would have influenced this decision. There's definitely something interpersonal going on there, some mental turmoil, if you really even want to go that far, to think that this would be a negative effect for him. But it's really hard to say because we don't know exactly what is going on inside of that head of his. And really, something might have pushed him to make this decision, and we can all take guesses all day, but we won't ever realize unless we were actually Chris. One thing we can conclude, that maybe he was a little bit uncomfortable with himself and felt like he really needed to change something in his life, because honestly, making a decision like this is 100% life-changing. And when it comes to his friends in the situation, I will admit I've been seeing a lot of clips of people trying to talk about mrbeast and saying that, you know, he may not like Chris's decision, but he's going to still be supportive of it. Of course, we don't know that either, but if we're going to really try and think this way, I will say that trying to be as open-minded as possible as a friend, if one of my friends were to make this decision, I will admit it would definitely change things, because you could end up living with someone as if they're brother, and then the next day, you may end up having to treat them like a sister, and definitely that does make things change the entire dynamic of the relationship that was once established between me and my friend before everything that happened. And I will admit that does suck, because you don't want things with your friends to change. And I know for a fact, I don't want anything to change with my friends that I have. I like the dynamics and the relationships that we have, and they don't need to be anything else. It's nice to sit around, play some video games, and have a beer with your friends. I love doing that. It's one of my favorite pastimes. Now, when your friend just ends up not liking video games one day, what can you do? And of course, this comparison is very loose, but like I said before, I'm going to treat someone like a brother, then the next day, I'm going to have to treat them like a sister. And it's not the same, and I will admit that does kind of hurt, being a friend of someone who's doing something like this. And I hope that's something that everyone on the other side of each party can actually understand, rather than being upset and hating someone for doing something that they felt like they need to do. And I will admit, this subject is not exactly my forte, but I'm still going to try and be as open-minded as possible. I do think that as long as Chris has had enough time to see the dynamic, understand the perspective, and really weigh out what's very important to him in his own life, then yes, he should go ahead and do what he wants to do. Because at the end of the day, only you can make yourself happy. That is undoubtedly a fact. And I'll give you my own take on how I feel about transitioning in of itself. Me, I don't agree with what he's doing, but nor do I disagree with it, because I personally believe that we are given our bodies for a reason. And I feel like we should all just accept the way we are and deal with it. Now, because I think that way, am I going to hate Chris for doing what he wants to do with his own body? No, because that's not my right and it's not my body. And for the people that are giving him hate, they honestly have some serious issues, because if anything, that's just going to make the guy feel a lot more uncomfortable in his skin than he already is or was at a point in time. And I feel like that's just going to do a lot more damage than it is good. Because with all the hate that is going on over Chris doing what he's doing, most of these people actually mean well. It's just that they don't want anything to change. They don't want the Mr. Beast dynamic to change in the slightest. But in a way, that is actually just pretty selfish, because imagine how Chris feels, man. He wanted to go as far as to doing something like this. He was so uncomfortable with himself that he wanted to change. Now, there are many different things you can go about a change. You can end up working out or doing many other things to evolve yourself and make so that your life takes a different direction. Now, before he made this specific change with his gender, I'm hoping that he at least explored all the other different avenues to decide that this is what he really wants to do at the end of the day. If people want to live their life in a certain way, more power to them at the end of the day. One thing I do hope is that no one ends up regretting any of their decisions. Chris would even end up responding to some of the hate by directly DMing someone who made the post of old Chris would make fun of new Chris, with him saying, "I saw this tweet from you today and wanted to say my lawyers will be in contact with you shortly with a court notice for defamation. Don't know why you or anyone would tweet something so hateful towards anyone on the internet. It's blatantly disgusting. See you soon. Don't be scared now." Honestly, to me, it seems like a joke, and I don't think he's actually going to try and sue anybody. I feel like he's just trying to troll this guy and really leave it at that. If he were to actually sue him, that would be pretty f***ing weird. Sneeko even said a lot about this situation himself.
You can see him in the replies. Mr. Beast is backing this up. He's like, opinion irrelevant ratio. Here's what the ratio. The Chris I know was like a truck driving, AK-47 shooting, Call of Duty playing, dip chewing. Yep, that was the Chris I knew. He didn't say that. He didn't say the part where it's gonna get you canceled. But that was the Chris I knew. Was, woo, Trump. What's up with all these? The Chris, he had a southern accent. He was driving monster trucks, and he helped me shoot my first AK-47. And he was chewing dip, and he was smoking Marlboro Reds. He had just bought a big truck with all the Mr. Beast money. That was Chris. What the f happened? The people that are encouraging this, they think that they're doing the right thing. They're all brainwashed. Even Mr. Beast thinks that he's doing the right thing by supporting his friend Chris. Brainwashed. If you really cared, you would not encourage his delusion now. You would look at the long term and see that this is something that he's doing because he is brainwashed by social media, because he's living in the West where this is pushed by a bunch of garbage. If you were really his friend right now, you would hear what I'm saying, because someone's going to clip this and send it to him. You would tell him you've made the wrong decision.
And he was pretty close to Chris at a point in time. Sneeko would honestly think that Chris is delusional and doesn't really know what he's doing and is only making his decisions based on an agenda that is being pushed. Sneeko would also say that he thinks everyone that is supporting Chris's decision is brainwashed. When it comes to Chris's decision, I don't really think anything such as an agenda is going to give any sense of satisfactions for Chris doing this kind of action. Of course, I can say shit like this, but it won't mean nothing because, again, we don't really know what he's thinking at all in the slightest. Now, when it comes to people being brainwashed, I mean, I can see why, because it seems like a lot of things on social media just come across as propaganda. I don't really feel like seeing any one of these posts is just going to give someone the idea to just change their gender or sexuality. I will admit, it's definitely being told to people that these kinds of actions are okay and that people should be comfortable with themselves, and that's perfectly fine in that sense. If people want to take these kind of actions, it's always an option for them. However, it's really up to them when it comes to how much time and thought they put into actually doing this. And to go so far, I really can't give too much of an opinion. Because let's be honest, it doesn't matter what anyone says because their actions speak a lot louder than any of our words ever could. And so it's best to just leave them satisfied with the new direction they want to take their lives into. And I think rather than hating, being upset, or even trying to demote their actions into something that was only transgressed through propaganda and influence, even though it could be, we don't really know what those people are thinking, or anyone is thinking for that matter. I think it was best for Mr. Beast, like everyone else, to just respect this decision. Because after everything is said and done, the only thing that you can do is just be there for your friend.